Hello, it's Jamie J. We're getting ready to go live here. So stay tuned. We're going to be talking with Kasie Whitener today about redesigning work, how to organize results-oriented models in your work-from-home reality. She is the managing partner of Clemson Road Creative. This is going to be a fun conversation, so stay tuned. You're going to have a lot of fun with this. You get a lot out of it. Promise you. So we'll be back here in about 32 seconds to kick off the show. Well, hello there. My name is Jamie J. I am the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants. But that's not why we're here today. Today, we're here to definitely help you stop the bottleneck in your business. But we're going to be talking to Kasie Whitener, who's the managing partner of Clemson Road Creative. We're going to be talking about the redesigned work, how to organize results-oriented models in your work-from-home reality, and why is Kasie going to be able to help you stop the bottleneck in your business? Well, let me tell you. Dr. Kasie Whitener is a change agent, educating students at the Moore School of Business, consulting with clients on implementing remote workforce strategies, and writing and publishing multiple books, shows, and workshops. So I just want to take a quick second before we make the introduction. Tune in today with this crazy world of post-COVID, what I call COVID. I have tested positive. I have it. I have the Rona. And what is it like? Oh, it's easy. It's nothing. Just kidding. It sucks. But in this post-COVID world, I think it's important for everybody to understand the importance of redesigning your workplace. What does the future workplace look like? And so we're going to have Dr. Kasie Whitener in. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring her on board.
Hello.
How are you? How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you? Well, no, you're not doing great. You're doing awful. I'm over here like, if I were any better, there'd be two of me, and you're like suffering. It's awful.
I tell you, it's good because I'll be good for about 15, 20 minutes, and then I start getting really weak and going down. And this is the most ridiculous freaking illness. And the reason why is because it's very fake. You feel like you're getting better, and all of a sudden you just start going downhill really quick. And I've been in bed for the last almost 10 days. It just crushes you. But the show must go on. we got to keep going. So I'm wondering if I'm obviously you know me. This is the epitome of what I love, what you do, and I'm so excited that you share this with so many other people. And I wonder if before we get into our conversation today, maybe you can give us a little more background about who you are, what you do, and then we could just jump into it.
Yeah, so I'll try to keep my monologuing to like a minute and a half or so because I have a tendency to just let go. But so I started Clemson Road Creative a few years ago as a writing studio, and my best friend and co-writer, co-author, Jody Keene Smith came on with me, and we picked up a little bit of work here and there, right, in the consulting industry. And we are remote employees all the time. So we are 100% asynchronous. We just work when we want to work, where we want to work, how we want to work. This is my achievement of autonomy, complete and total autonomy. Just do what I want when I want, which is what I wanted when I achieved when I went for my PhD. So Jody has the same life. She's down in Alabama. And at one point, our small business development center rep said to us—
And where are you?
Oh, I'm in South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, Columbia, South Carolina. And our SBDC rep said, when does how you work become the thing that you sell? And I was like, what? Because we're over here selling writing and marketing and whatever. And he says, no, but it's how you work. That's really interesting. And I think people are going to want to learn how to do it the way you and Jody do it. And so we put some methodology around it. We started thinking about really, how does this actually work? How do you create an asynchronous, fully remote work environment where people are working to milestones, they're working to results, they're project oriented. So we're trying to meet certain deliverables for our clients. We're trying to just enable people to work when they're best able to do so, right? And so now, I guess probably about a year ago, we were out there going, okay, now that we've figured out like this is the way we do it and this is our method and all that, let's go around and see if anybody's interested in learning how to do this. This is, 2019. So we're out there pitching it like, hey, we've got this thing. It's called Redesigning Work. These are the knowledge alternative work models. It's all about getting off the 40-hour work week industrial standard, moving over to a much more digital, autonomous, freelance kind of experience. We're going to teach you exactly how to manage your employees through this. Would you buy it? And everybody was like, no. So fast. I mean, I'm not kidding you. Like the doors could not slam fast enough. Just about every manager I talked to was like, I don't even want to begin to take that on. And we'll talk, I think, a little bit more about this, but the traditional companies have these things like, well, you can earn a day at home. And well, if after a while, you might be trusted to work from home, right? Or like, if you absolutely have to, I guess you can work from home, right? Like all this kind of garbage. And in actuality, come this past April, everybody went home, right? And so when they all went home, I said to Jody, I said, well, maybe we should ask again. Like, what do you think? Do you think we should go out there and ask them about this remote work thing? And so what we've seen over the summer was that people were sort of hastily patching together remote work strategies. They were trying to, and then all the pundits were coming out and they were writing about like, get yourself a designated space and, get dressed every day. Don't just work in your pajamas and like all these other kind of really very surface level recommendations. And Jody and I were saying, it's got to go deeper than that because it's more about how do you measure the results of your remote employees and how do you use your management style to recognize those results as the actual work they're doing. So that's why we wrote the book this summer, Redesign Work Volume 1, Beginner's Guide to Autonomy. And what we're doing right now is engaging with companies that want to take this a step further. They don't just want to Band-Aid this remote work thing until they can get, quote, air quote, back to normal, right? But they really see how valuable
that is, right?
Yeah, exactly. But they really see how valuable a remote strategy is, how much more autonomous, when people are given their autonomy, when they're able to do what they can do best, they really do thrive. And so we think there are some companies out there that are interested in building a strategic plan around this. And that's who we're looking for right now.
That's fantastic. So this is what you just said. That's my world. I live in that world every single day. I absolutely love it. I've been living in the world for 14 years. Since 2006, I've been working remotely, and I love the fact that you revisited, came back around. What's his name? Jeffrey Green. Do you know Jeffrey Green, the author of Crossing the Chasm?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that whole thing, for those people that don't know that at 2%, that's you and me. We're kind of like the innovators, right? We go, right. Okay, anybody that is crazy enough to start their own business, that's an innovator, right? That's 2% of the population. Right. About 14% of the populations are the early adopters. We can now go out to our local sphere of influence and we can say, hey, check this out. And they know that what you say, yes, I'm in. Count me in because I trust you with everything and I know what you're doing. And thank you for coming back around to us and telling us about that thing. Then there's that chasm, that gap. And then it goes to about 34% of the population. That is the early majority. If you can cross that chasm and get into that early majority, now your product is viable. It's there because now you're finally talking to people that you don't really know necessarily firsthand.
Right.
But that chasm there, I think, is what we just experienced from a remote-based level, because in March, everybody was forced to go remote. Not everybody, but I would say a large percentage, right?
Yeah. And some of them did it very well. Some of them, it was seamless, right? Because maybe they didn't even really realize it, but they were already doing it anyway. Their people had enough technology at home with them. There was enough of the leash was long enough that their people had been working from home, on various afternoons and stuff like that, coming in a little bit late, this kind of thing. But they already had the infrastructure in place to enable a fully remote environment. They simply hadn't made that jump, right? And so then when they made the jump in March, that was like, okay, well, we've got everything we need. Let's just start working like this. And I think the people that struggled with it were the ones who have never wanted to let people out of their sight, right? Like they always had that, my eyeballs are on you, so you must be working, kind of old school managerial mentality. Yeah. And they really struggled. Some of the people that we talked to over the summer while we were conducting research were government agencies. Some of them were technology firms, oddly enough, in insurance companies, right? That had these large call center workforces. And it's interesting to see which of those companies struggled and which ones thrived.
It's neat too, because you look at leadership is got to be reevaluated. From a leadership role, where's the trust? Where's micromanagement? Where is, and I think all of that coming into play and kind of forcing people to have that experience. Now, I think moving forward in the future of the workplace, and I definitely want to ask you a question about that. It's my opinion, based on a conversation I recently had, that the future workplace is a hybrid model, meaning that I truly believe in the heart of hearts that there is something to be said for collaboration, being right there, working with people from that perspective. But there is also something to be said for the remote workforce aspect of that business that's going to lower overhead, increase productivity. That's been proven, by the way, in one specific study that I would love to chat about more. But it's really interesting to me how this dynamic is kind of moving forward. Based on this quick example, software company, 200 employees, they did a 3-month study on productivity, and they found that the personal productivity increased by the programmers, for the lines of code increased personally by 67% remotely. But the number of new versions and softwares that were turned out to the public decreased by nearly 50%. Why is this?
Interesting.
It's because when they came back, all these developers were just going to town, no distractions. But when they're spending so much more time working from team to team, working out the bugs, that it actually, because they were working independently. So what they did is they studied, they said, hey, using this software called Dojo. And what they found is, okay, these people can come in and work collaboratively. These people can stay working remotely. And by working with this, using AI, but using this technology here, we're able to really, really, really step up our game. And they were able to find out who could work remotely. And what's the good part about that is you don't have to bring everybody in. You still have the remote-based aspect of it, along with the collaborative aspect, and get the best of both worlds, save on the overhead, and move forward. What do you think about the future workplace? And knowing this story, this is one case.
Yeah, so there's a couple of interesting things to unpack there. I would say we just filmed an episode of our own podcast, which is called Earning Mileage. We're on a YouTube channel, Earning Mileage, and the topic is say yes. And what we're trying to encourage, the idea is, if given the chance to make an exception for your employee, say yes. Don't be so bogged down with policy and procedure that you can't customize the work experience for each of your employees. Because really, in order to be a successful manager of a remote workforce, you've got to be able to recognize when people are thriving in it and when people are struggling in it. And so what I would unpack about that story with the software is it's interesting to say, well, we're going to look at productivity numbers and we're going to identify which specific people can do this or can do that. We don't think you manage the people. We think you manage the work. So, and what I mean by that is the people should get to self-regulate, right? Like they should get to self-identify. I'm somebody who's good at this. I'm somebody who's good at that. But the work itself is the job of the manager, saying, let's hit these milestones. Let's hit these deadlines. Let's make sure we're producing these results. And then the people have to say, hey, I'm good at this. I'll take care of that. Hey, I'm good over here. Or I'm struggling with this. Can I please, make a change of some kind? But I think for such a long time, we've pushed this human resources agenda of like human resources, right? Like I'm going to manage my humans. Human beings are independent, right? And they're allowed to manage themselves. They're also mostly grownups. And so let them do that. Like let them figure out, this is what I enjoy doing. This is what I enjoy working on. This is where I'm most motivated. These are the hours that I'm the most productive. If you want me to be collaborative, bring me into the building so we can go eyeball to eyeball, or let me work over a video camera so it doesn't take, an hour for me to commute in and commute out. But as an individual, I should get a chance to make that choice myself. And the manager's job is only to piece together all that data and go, okay, here's the plan. Right? Here's how we're gonna do the project based on what you've given me, right? It doesn't mean that I come in here and set a policy that says everybody's got to log on at 8:00. You can't log off until 5:00, and your work better be done in that time. And if it's not, there will be consequences. Like this is all garbage. It's such old school thinking that I just get like I'm getting all fired up. Sorry, I'll back off a little.
No, get fired up. This is see what you're saying. I absolutely love that. I absolutely love it. Now, there's something to be said for setting expectations, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
So with each individual person, there's expectations. Okay, hey, you're most productive between 8 and 5. Great. As a matter of fact, for my staff, I don't write the job roles and responsibilities. They write the job roles and responsibilities. Good. They also are in charge of making their own decisions. So if a process needs to be improved upon, they don't need to go through me. They don't need to go through a man. They just change it. Now, if there's a challenge or a problem, let's figure that out. Let's fix it, and then let's get back. But they do it on their own, and they make a decision. Every single person in our entire organization knows they make a decision in the following way. Is it good for the company? Is it good for the staff? And is it good for the clients? Because if they make a decision that's not good for the company needs to be healthy financially, culturally, whatever. If they make a decision that's good for the company, that's good. If it's not good for the company, how in the world is a company going to be able to take care of its staff? And if we don't take care of our staff, and if our staff members don't take care of each other, how in the world are we going to take care of our clients? It's impossible.
I just had this great conversation with these guys. They are The Submarine Way is the name of their brand, and they do diversity and inclusivity training. Well, it's not diversity really. They call it inclusivity training, and they talk about modeling this concept of equity. The equity is that people have their own unique contributions, and when we leverage all of those contributions together, we can be an effective team. But people have to self-identify, be coached into, understand what those contributions are. I always tell people, my students, when they're going for job interviews, I said, your job is, in this interview, is to explain to that hiring manager how you can solve their problems, right? Mm-hmm. How you can fix something that's haunting them right now. They're challenged by something and they need you. And so your job while you're sitting there is to explain to them how you can solve their problems, how you can contribute to their organization. And the only way you know what problem they're experiencing, it's not by reading a job description, it's by asking them, what's really bugging you right now? And how can I fix that? How does my skill set complement the efforts you've already started? And how can I help take you across the finish line? That's what you're looking for, is contributors that are going to come into your company and they're going to say, my skills can take you across the finish line. And other than that, all the rest of this stuff is it's administrative, it's procedural, it's covering our legal bases. And honestly, we don't have time for that in our company. In our company, I'm like, come in, jump in, start working, let's go.
Well, one thing that you talked about, there's a tasks element of things, and what are you good at, and how do you figure that? You meaning the employee, the freelancer, the whomever it is, the managers, everybody. What are you good at doing? Focus on that and really, really kill it. But there is also a systematic approach to everything that really helps. And I found that being remote has forced me to get into developing a better system, better processes, workflows management, things like that, which is only good. It's only good because that really helps with communication. So it's helped establish the level of expectation, in my opinion. This is all my opinion, but again, it's really working for us. And what I've seen is it really helps establish what the expectations are. So if I say, Joe Schmo, where do you feel your strengths lie most? Well, I am really good at, sales, or I am really good at this, or really good. Fantastic. What are you doing? What's the most effective way for you to come up with a marketing campaign or a sales campaign? What's that strategy look like? Have that discussion. Great. Do me a huge favor. Document your step, your process.
Yeah.
Because I love what you're doing. And when we grow this particular segment of the business, I want to leverage your expertise.
Yeah, in my classes, I call that user-driven content, right? So, okay, you've done this amazing thing. Now bring it to me and teach me how to do it too, or at least write it down so that I would be able to teach somebody else, right? So I think I'm a big fan of that. And so when we came at remote work, you mentioned before the different, we call them all contributors. They're all contributors. They're employees, they're managers, they're supervisors, they're all contributors. So we started looking at contributors and saying, I know that the managers are saying to themselves, well, if I let you do it, I have to let everybody do it, right? So we outlined 3 different roles, contributor types, right? We have a contributor type that is the satellite contributor. This person never comes into the office at all. Everything they do, fully remote. We have the zone contributor, which is somebody who comes in and out of the office. Think like outside sales reps, right? They come in and out of the office. And then we have what we call resident contributors. And the residents are here all the time, but we're not expecting them to be like 8 hours a day. We're just expecting them to, like, this is their primary place of work. They come into the office and they work. What's interesting in our model is that these are not permanent conditions. You can be a zone for the first quarter because you have to spend more time with your kid. She needs you at home in the afternoons. And then when your kid goes to college, you can become a resident and you can be in the building, right? Or say your parent gets sick and you just need a little bit more freedom or more autonomy. Man, head out, go be a satellite employee. Like, we don't need to see you at all. It's fine. So we've created this sort of fluidity to that, where people get to say, here's the type of contributor I am. And based on this type, this is what you can expect from me. You can expect me to be on site this number of days. You can expect that I'm never going to be on site, right? Because I am this type of contributor. And I think that very specific, how do you do this, is what people are looking for. They're looking for vocabulary around it. They're looking for, how do they explain it to their people? And it's not, and it also, I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier, I think what's so important about setting expectations, and maybe what that software was doing, was removing bias from this. I'm not letting, Carol go out the door at 4 o'clock every day to get her kid because I like her better than Sarah, right? And then I look at Sarah and go, well, Sarah, you leave, at 2 o'clock sometimes. We don't need any of that sludge, right? There's a great book called Why Work Sucks and What to Do About It. And it's by Carly Ressler. And I can't remember who her co-author is. I'm looking over my shoulder because it's on the thing here. And they talk extensively about that kind of cultural sludge where people give other people a hard time for not, being within the boundaries. And so when we sit down and say, hey, these are the 3 types of contributors that we have, we're creating those boundaries. And we're saying, we're expecting you to be a resident. And if you're a resident, we're expecting you to be on site. And so other people have that expectation of you as well. If you find that you can't meet that expectation, let's bump you out to zone, or let's bump you over to satellite. But let's just be clear about, if you're a resident, you're expected to be here. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with drawing lines around it, because it gives people sort of rules to play by. And it doesn't feel like I'm now being, offering some kind of favoritism to one person or the other. And you don't have to earn these things. You don't go from resident and slowly earn satellite. Like that's, it's not a meritorious thing. It's what works best for you and how can you best contribute to the company.
Well, I think you just nailed it. I was getting ready to comment, and I'm glad I didn't, because you finished off with a thought that I had, in that it's my opinion that human beings need some form of structure in order to excel. Mm-hmm. It's very rare that you can find people in the workforce that can literally take something from nothing and thrive. That is more of the entrepreneurial kind of get started type thing. But there's a lot of people that need the structure. Like I'm not a good fit for corporate America. That's just not me. But I know a lot of people who love corporate America. They love, the structure of it, and there's a place for them to go and to fit into, but they love that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I love how you have the different roles. I think it's extremely important to be able to define each of those roles specifically, to where you can give somebody kind of like, they can be a square and fit into a square. They can be a round and, peg and fit into the round peg area. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But should they ever morph into a different shape and things in their life change, which probably never happens, right? Our lives probably always stay exactly the same. There's probably no viruses that'll ever come and attack the world and completely change everything.
And make our friends hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I think you're hitting on something really important here, because the reason that we went after this changeability, right, the interchangeability of this, is because there are studies showing that we lose women in their mid to late 20s through their mid 30s. We're losing there's a whole gap there, that these women are going and staying home with their children, and they're staying home with their children because they weren't offered an alternative. They either have to be at home or their kids have to be in daycare, and that's it. There's no in between. And since April, what we've seen is moms can work from home and their kids can be in the same room, but they might not be working in the same hours that everybody else is working. They might have to work different hours, right? But we can be flexible with that. And we don't have to lose these high contributors because we're unwilling to bend. And we're unwilling to give them a satellite experience for a while, right? Like, go be a satellite for, a couple of years, then get the kid into kindergarten and come on back to the office. We'll see you then. But don't leave completely. Don't walk away from your career. You still have plenty of to contribute, and we still need you, right? Exactly. And so that was part of the reason we were trying to approach that too. Both Jody and I were both moms of young children when we started on this journey. And I was like, I just don't fit in corporate America. I don't want to be there till 5 o'clock. I want to be home when Holly comes off the school bus. And now she's homeschooling. And so it's even better, because now I've got so much autonomy and she's got so much autonomy that we can literally do whatever we want, whenever we want. And our neighbors are all jealous.
Well, see, that's the thing. Well, I'm kind of locked down right now, but normally if I needed to run to the store and grab some cream for the coffee, right? I can actually, after we're done with this call, guess what? I can hop in the car and do whatever the heck I want to, make my wife very happy that I ran an errand, right?
Right.
And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Guess what? Anyone on my staff, I have no idea what they do during zero, but they get stuff done. And the level of expectation is such that we do have our weekly meetings. I think it's important to have a weekly meeting, but we're very structured. We follow an agenda. Everybody follows the same thing. And every week somebody else leads the meetings. It's a different person on the team. And at the end, that person gives a little training on what they do. And it's fantastic because a lot of people get an insight into, wow, that's so cool what they do. But
I think you're making, I want to add a piece to that too, because you're making a really good point. We were talking about structure, right? So this whole concept of autonomy and like working from home, it's not chaos. We're not opening a can of worms and just shaking it all over the table.
Yeah.
The two pieces, the one is identifying what the different contributor roles are. And then the other is how do you measure, right? And so we talk about measuring 3 specific categories. We measure revenue, which is the contributor's impact on revenue. Are they completing client projects? Are they delivering product to our customers? Are they making sales? Like, what is their impact on the revenue? What's it expected to be? And then we measure their performance up against that, right? So there is the revenue category, and that all kind of gets determined by what they're actually doing as a contributor. Then we measure responsiveness, which is if I need you and I have a question for you, or I've asked you to do something for me, or somebody else has asked you to do something. Are you responding to us, right? Are you engaged with us? And we have some SLAs around there. So we know if you try to reach me by phone, it's going to take this long. If you try to reach me by email, it'll take that long, whatever, right? So we have some policies around, if I send you a text message, I expect something back within about 15 minutes or so, right? And we establish that responsiveness. But that's another category where different teams create their own guidelines, and they say, this is what we expect in the responsiveness category. And then the third one is, so we have revenue, responsiveness, and results. The third one is the results. And this is, we have expectations for your work, right? If your work is client-facing work, here's what we expect it to look like. If your work is internal, here's what we expect it to look like. What are the results? Are you doing the things you say you're going to do? Are you meeting deadlines? Are you meeting objectives, right? So, and not all of those results are necessarily revenue, right? Sometimes those results are about, I don't know. I'm thinking about trainers, right? Because I was a corporate trainer for a long time. So corporate trainers don't necessarily contribute directly to revenue, but they are training new hires, right? Okay, so tell me about your new hire training. How many people came through? How many lessons did you give? How long? These kinds of things. So the results are sort of the job-oriented piece, the revenue being the impact on the overall company. How does your role contribute to the overall company's revenue? Are we making any money, right? And then the third one is that responsiveness. And we think if you can, as a team and as a manager, organize some expectations in each of those categories, it's very easy to look at your employee and say, hey man, you're killing it this month. I know you're killing it because I can look at all these key performance indicators in these 3 categories, and every one of them is out of the park, right? And it doesn't mean to say that like, hey, I expected you to bring in, $10,000 and you brought in 15. So next month I'm going to expect 15. Like this is, it's more about like, what do I need from you revenue wise to keep the company moving, right? I don't need 15 from you. I clearly only needed 10. So if you want a push goal, well, we can give you a stretch goal.
Sure.
But I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, I think, and all of that is about being operationalizing the work itself. None of this is about people. Because people they manage themselves, right? Like they can only control their own personalities, their own fears, their own thoughts and feelings and motivations. That's all on them. I'm trying to manage the work, and I'm trying to be very objective about that. Here's what we need done. How can you contribute? And I think that's just it's a complete pivot from what we've been doing for so long in corporate.
Yes. I mean, I can say yes. I love this revenue, responsiveness, and results. And here's the thing that I hope people will take away from this. You did something like responsiveness, and okay, what type of what's the technology you're using, or what is the capabilities you're using to communicate? Mm-hmm. How are you responding back? And based on this and this, if it's text or phone or email, how long is it going to take for you to respond? Well, right. I expect this to be 15 minutes. This can be 24 hours. This can be blah, 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 whatever. Just saying those things, like you said, you break down this chaotic corporate America into super simple, easy, 3rd grade simple, I call it. If you can make it so that a 3rd grader can understand what this process is, anybody should be able to understand it. And before you did say we are adults.
Yeah.
I can hear you, but there's a lot of immature adults out there that need that structure, that you need to provide it there. But when you break it down to the simplistic nature of revenue, responsive, and results with super easy expectations to follow, and you write that out in a process, goals, whatever it is, it makes things so much easier. And the need for a structured 8 to 5 environment is completely gone.
The time ceases to matter, right? Like the idea of it took me 2 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours, or I worked a 90-hour week, I'm such a martyr. I'm so amazing. I worked for like 90 hours. Like, give me a break, right? I think
if I work 4 days a week, I'm bumming.
Well, I actually work every day, but that's partly because I'm a writer, and writers have to write every day, right?
Yeah.
So, but all that to say, I think this is going to be something easily adopted in corporate moving forward, because we have been training students for decades to look at a rubric. Right? You know what a rubric is, right? So the rubric says in education for the last decade or so, every time there's an assignment, they're given the according rubric. And the rubric is, to get an A, you must do this. And it's like a checklist, right? To get a B, you'll do this. To get a C, you'll do this. And my students, specifically right now at the university, are so completely obsessed with rubrics. They want their grades to be completely objective. And here's the thing. I'll build rubrics that'll say things like, it's boring. Right? Yes, it's technically fine, but I wanted to kill myself reading this, right? Like, and so, which I think I'm mostly just making fun of this rubric obsession, but I just want people to understand that we have trained a workforce that is looking for very clear expectations to be set for them. And if you can build those expectations, we're Gen Xers, we come up through just just do the right thing. And when you're not doing the right thing, I'll tell you. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But that's not this generation. They have been told very specifically, to within a 1/10 of a point, what they have to do to get the top possible mark. And that's what they want. I mean, it's like a game. It's a scorecard for them. And so I think if you sit down and you say, these are our responsiveness SLAs, our service level agreements, and if you're not following by them, I'm not keeping track of every one, but I'm going to kind of look at a pattern, right? And if I get to the end of the month and I'm like, hey, man, there were about 6 different times that you were supposed to come to meetings and you just didn't show. What gives, right? Or are we putting the meetings at the wrong time? Are you blowing them off for a reason? And I think this kind of setting that sort of rubric, right, or scorecard is going to be something that's very easily adopted by the workforce in the future, specifically because they were trained that way in education, at least in American education. There's a whole other show we could do on the industrialization of education.
Maybe we could jump into
I'm just going to go with homeschool mom right here. And we'll just leave it at that.
Oh man, yeah. Well, I think it's a new time for how people are doing their work. And as a matter of fact, I'm working with the university in Ontario, Canada, and we're doing a project on the future work of what the future workplace looks like.
Nice.
And I cannot wait till March 1st when that project's complete. And just to get all that data and stuff out there, I can't wait to share it, because it's a lot of research is basically what it is. And I'm seeing so many things trend in a positive way, in my opinion, on how we can excel working remotely. And I think, go ahead.
We had this huge opportunity this summer, Jamie. I mean, every company that got shut down, everybody that got sent home, we had a huge opportunity this summer to make radical change in our work environments. And if the company that you're working for, or the company that you manage or you own, didn't do that, shame on you.
Yep.
Just shame on you, because we had just a tremendous opportunity this summer. And I'm so sick of people talking about going back to normal. I can't take it. Normal sucked. Okay. It was awful. People hated their jobs.
Well, and we are one of those people that completely redesigned our business. I will let you know that. Even though we had remote based, brand new workflows and processes and systems and new category and all kinds of crazy stuff that came out of this thing. And I wouldn't necessarily call it crazy. I would call it, from a crazy kind of atmosphere, we created this new thing. And you're right. if you didn't jump on that, and you're right, I don't care if you're a business owner, a contributor, it doesn't matter. What matters is you recognize that there was some chaos, and we all need to kind of change our viewpoints and how we manage things so that we can continuously provide a good company culture for everybody to thrive in. I know it's getting towards the end of our time here, a little bit past there, but I wonder if maybe you can see if people are interested in getting to know you or learn more about you, or how can they get in touch with you or buy your book?
Yeah, absolutely. So the book is called Redesign Work, Volume 1, A Beginner's Guide to Autonomy, and it's on Amazon. So people are welcome to buy that right now. It's $3.99 for a Kindle version. And we're also willing to have one-on-one consultations. I'm glad to have you give me a call. We can get on a Zoom meeting. I can be reached on LinkedIn. By all means, reach out that way. I'm also on Twitter at Kasie Whitener, and also at Clemson Road, and I respond to Twitter direct messages. I'd be glad to share my email with you there. And then I think you have my email up here too. So if anybody just wants to talk further, I'm glad to give people, 30-minute Zoom conversation. Let's just chat about what's happening right now. I'm glad to offer a couple of tips and tricks. We do have some sweet PDF file giveaways that we send out usually after we have a good conversation. And I'll just send you a couple little, tools and I was gonna say tools but there's really nothing else. It's just tools, a couple of tools you can use. But then of course we also have the YouTube channel. So go out and check out the Clemson Road YouTube channel. The episodes are called Earning Mileage. You'll get to know me and Jody a little bit better, understand kind of where we're coming from. Those episodes are short. They're only about 20 minutes each. And they kind of give you a feel for what it would be like to work with us, because we're just chatting back and forth and talking specifically about this remote work piece, this being autonomous, being an entrepreneur, what are some of the challenges that we faced and that sort of thing. So it's worth it. People want to get to know us. That's one of the best ways to do it.
Fantastic. Oh, I can't thank you enough for circling back. I always love chatting with you, and
I know you're my buddy.
The revenue, responsiveness, results. I love it.
A little shout out to Elaine Pofelt for introducing us, because man.
Yes. My apologies, Elaine. I was supposed to talk with her on Tuesday, and I was not feeling good enough, so I had to
cancel. Just get better soon, man. Get better soon.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this dang thing, Radifracus.
Well, yeah. I appreciate you taking our time today and being willing to meet this, because this is important to me, and it's going to hopefully break open some conversations for me. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you're so welcome. Before we wrap today, is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap?
Oh, I don't think so. I think I'm probably pretty good. Like I said, I'm kind of all over the internet these days. I'm really surprised when people are like, gosh, I've never met you. I'm like, just Google my name. You'll find me everywhere. It's ridiculous that all we did was create this summer. We just built content all summer long. And so we've got a new novel and all these, there's just so much content out there right now. So I'm glad. I'm glad to get a chance to create.
And I'm glad that you created. And I just hope a lot of people reach out to you, say howdy, because take advantage of this time right now. I will say it's still not too late, obviously. You still can do something, but get on it.
Yeah.
Get going.
Yeah. And especially, our pitch right now is to people who are building their budgets for 2021, who are thinking about going into next year, knowing they've got to do something, but they're not really sure what they're going to do. Let's have a conversation and maybe adding us as a budget line item for next year and building a project next year would be something effective for you. I mean, we're not talking about the Band-Aid fix here. We're talking about cultural corporate change. And so organizational change, and it takes time, and it's a serious conversation to have. So as people are thinking about that, I mean, what would a 30-minute call hurt, right? Let's just chat it out and see what happens.
Well, thank you for everything that you're doing. Would you be able to hold on just 1 second while I wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I just want to say thank you to Kasie Whitener, Dr. Kasie Whitener, who is a managing partner of Clemson Road Creative. Go check it out, clemsonroad.com. Check out their book. It's available on Amazon right now. It's called Redesign Work, Volume 1, A Beginner's Guide to Autonomy. Highly encourage you to reach out. You can look on Facebook. I guess it's better to check out Kasie on Twitter. There's at Clemson Road. You can send her an email if you want to, Kasie at clemsonroad.com. Highly, highly, highly encourage you reaching out. This remote work thing is only going to get better. and it's only going to get bigger. And it's important for you to understand what the systems and processes, policies, procedures, everything like that's going to be able to enhance and motivate the staff. Or if you are a contributor in any way, shape, or form, reach out to Kasie. It's as simple as that. Ask as many questions as you want. If you have a question and this is playing in replay, evergreen mode down the road, ask a question. I'll make sure to get it off and get you in touch with Kasie as well. So thank you so much for tuning in today. My name is Jamie J. I'm the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance. And I just want to say thank you so much. Remember, create your own ripple and have a fantastic day. Stay safe and healthy.